Thank you. Now watch this drive.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is Monday somewhere for July 29th, 2024. My name is Bernie Burns, sitting right over there, fresh off her casting announcement from San Diego Comic-Con 2024. Say hi to Ashley, everybody.
Thanks, man. It's so good to be here. I'm so excited for this role. I'm so glad that we can finally talk about this, and I hope that I don't let you down. I can't wait for y'all to see what's coming.
That's actually not too bad. You're missing just the big,
Oh, no,
glory unto me.
I had that. You just couldn't see it.
So we are, in a second, going to talk about San Diego Comic-Con stuff. First of all, how crazy is it that we're going to be talking about San Diego Comic-Con? I feel like I haven't talked about that in, 8 years.
Yeah.
It's back, baby.
I feel like conventions, as in general, kind of suffered with the pandemic and everything. But then also, I worried that San Diego Comic-Con was kind of getting the E3 treatment, where a lot of publishers are like, oh, we can do our own thing. We don't really need you. Like Disney's got D23. They make a lot of their announcements there. Lucas has their Star Wars fan event. They make a lot of their announcements there. So, there's a little bit more splintering going on.
Star Wars Celebration.
Yes, that's
what a creative name.
Thank you. What do you think they do there? But this has definitely showed that Comic-Con is still a big draw. And there were a lot of big announcements coming out over the weekend. But before that, I guess we should preface that, oddly enough, some of the announcements seem like spoilers, I guess.
Yeah, it's weird because we talked about spoilers because there was a big MCU movie coming out this weekend. It's like,
what was that? What was that called?
You guys got all of 2 days before the MCU came rearing back and stole all your thunder. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. But they did do a really big thing at Comic-Con in Hall H, which is the hall to be in, apparently. And where they had, everyone in Hall H watched Deadpool and Wolverine, and then they did, a panel with the cast afterward, which, having seen the movie, would have been dope to be there.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that, because I was worried that, they had this big movie coming out, they were doing all this press, and then it, immediately gets shoved to the side by all these announcements. I worry, because I'm a Ryan Reynolds fan, Ashley, and I'm worried that he wasn't getting enough attention.
The slept-on actor / personality / sports team sports owner Ryan Reynolds.
I wouldn't want his opinion of himself to suffer.
I don't think you're going to have to worry. Deadpool Wolverine set a record at the box office for an R-rated opening. Huge. It did over $200 million at the domestic U.S. box office and is estimated to have done somewhere in the range, give or take, about $438 million worldwide. So I'm going to round that up to $440 million. That's okay as an opening. Kevin Costner, how do you feel?
I was going to make a joke and say, and they are classified as an animated film for some reason. I'm not sure why. Quick aside before we go into the San Diego Comic-Con stuff about the spoilers, because we kind of got off of that. May I just say, there is a trend lately that I absolutely love, and that is I love drone shows. They had a big drone show for the MCU at San Diego Comic-Con. I love these things where they have moving images in the sky. These are dope as hell. And I don't want anyone to come and tell me in my head the carbon footprint of exploding shit in the sky with traditional fireworks, building all the drones and harvesting all the lithium ion batteries, I'm sure is probably worse than that on a carbon footprint level. Don't tell me that.
No, look, it's fine. We're going to be off lithium ion batteries at some point in the not too distant future. I'm sure. I think they're working on rock salt or something. That's apparently quite promising.
You know what the evolution of this is going to be, though? This is the middle ground that's really cool. Then there'll be the completely green version of this in 10 years where we all just have AR glasses and they send the images to our glasses. It'll be like a silent disco.
We can all watch completely different drone shows.
And it'll be better. But in the meantime, I love these drone shows. I think they're dope. They had a couple of them over Austin when we were there, when we lived there for South by Southwest. There was even some Halo related ones.
Yeah, or like GDCs and things like that. They would do fun events. Yeah, you said they did one for the Halo announcement, but they had some missteps as well.
There was a questionable one where they put a QR code in the sky, which was pretty cool.
I mean,
but also kind of lame.
It's cool in that, like, oh, that's neat that you can do that with that degree of accuracy. It's also like not in my dystopia. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the QR code flies over. There's one over Shanghai they did as well, where people can go and they can visit, whatever the destination is.
Maybe that's how you're going to download this particular light show to your AR glasses in the future.
Yeah, that might be how you do it. You're probably right. But going back to the spoiler thing, so there was this release this weekend, and we're going to try to avoid any spoilers. But what is a spoiler when it comes to announcements made by a studio? Because I think in the category, Ashley, of spoilers, the top category is a character dies, right? That's the thing you don't want to reveal.
I would even clarify that more to unexpected death of a major character.
Unexpected death of a major character. Then there is, I think the second right behind that category would be someone appearing in the film that you're not expecting. And that's what all these announcements are. They're casting announcements for who's going to be in this.
Yes. But I think there's also a point at which something is too big to be a spoiler. Like, there's no way they could keep this secret, so they may as well announce it.
Also, they do need a shot in the arm, as it were, you know?
Yes. Although I would argue that Deadpool Wolverine kind of was that shot. For this particular weekend, I don't know that they needed a shot this weekend, but they got one anyway.
Do you? I feel like that's I feel like Deadpool and Wolverine is like when a character falls over a cliff and there's the branch that's there somehow sticking out. That's how I view it.
There's always a branch. How does that work?
Always a branch where you need it. That's Deadpool and Wolverine, or the Deadpool franchise in general at this point. Or maybe it's just Wolverine, honestly. But yeah, so the big reveal, we're going to start talking about some of this stuff now. So these announcements made by the studio. If you've avoided these, congratulations. You must not have opened a screen at any point during the weekend. But
I can't get away from it.
I think the big announcement from Marvel this weekend was that Avengers 5 has now been renamed to Doomsday, and it is, assuming from the title, going to introduce the character of Doctor Doom into the MCU, which is arguably the biggest villain in all of the Marvel Comics universe.
So now I do have some questions about that, because I was associated Doctor Doom specifically with the Fantastic Four. And
Yes.
I know that they've got a Fantastic Four movie coming, so maybe it's something to do with that. I don't really know.
Yes, Doctor Doom is more closely associated with the Fantastic Four, which also had some big announcements and had some footage shown at San Diego Comic-Con. They're just beginning production right now, and the movie's going to come out in less than a year. I'm curious how they're going to pull that off.
So either they're relying more on low or practical effects, or they're just going to do the industry standard thing and throw a shit ton of animators at it, right?
Yeah, and in the discussion you and I had this weekend on the Patreon about Deadpool and Wolverine, we were talking about our theory that we look at the Avengers movies as being kind of like the chapter markers of the MCU, and that the two coming chapter markers are Avengers 5, Doomsday, and Avengers 6, Secret Wars. They have explicitly said now the Fantastic Four are going to appear in each one of those.
Okay.
So that would tie in with Doomsday as well. But the big announcement that everyone's really chomping about, Ashley, is
the announcement of who is Doctor Doom, and it turns out it's Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. is returning to the MCU as Victor Von Doom. They've explicitly said it's Victor Von Doom and not a Tony Stark variant, which I find to be fascinating.
I do too, and I have kind of mixed feelings about it, I guess. I mean, I'm happy to see Robert Downey Jr. back because he was such a important personality for the entire early arc, that first arc of the MCU. He was so good, so good as Tony Stark, and so I'm happy to have him back, but it is also kind of weird for him to come back as this other character. Mm-hmm. Do you see Doctor Doom's face?
The short answer is no to that question.
Okay.
No, you don't typically see Doctor Doom's face. There have been moments where he's taken off the mask and revealed his face. I don't want to get too much into it, but in general, no, you do not know what Doctor Doom looks like.
Okay, so that changes things a little bit for me, because it's not like he would be the first time an actor has played multiple roles in Marvel films. It would be the biggest, I think, at this point. That would be the biggest sort of return, but not the first. I mean, Chris Evans was Human Torch in the old school Fantastic Four, and then went on to be Captain America.
So was Michael B. Jordan. He was Human Torch in
Oh,
Fantastic Four,
right.
and then he was Killmonger. So Human Torch. Maybe they should have cast Robert Downey Jr. as Human Torch, and that's his gateway to playing other parts. Well, Thanos. We had
Thanos, right? I don't associate him with Cable.
I did a little bit more. We went back and watched Deadpool 2 after watching Deadpool 3. I'm just gonna call it Deadpool 3 from now on. But I saw some Thanos in Cable a little bit. I couldn't help but see it. But I had just watched Infinity War as well, very, very recently.
Okay, I mean they are similar in character, I guess, in that they're they're strong, they're stoic, a little bit grumpy. But I'm interested to see what RDJ does as a complete
RDJ. Look at you.
RDJ. We're on an initialism basis. Yeah, I'm interested to see what he does as a completely different character.
Yeah, me too. I'm very optimistic about it. Like, every time they do a casting announcement for any beloved character, the initial reaction is usually like, and then it's perfectly fine and everybody loves it. In this case, everyone's just super excited to have Robert Downey Jr. back. And then after the initial blush, now people are going like, what's this going to look like? And I think very specifically the fact they said he's playing Victor Von Doom. They didn't say not Tony Stark, but they said he is Victor Von Doom, which is the name of the character. Now people are starting to wonder what this is going to look like. The problem is with all fans of these massive franchises is that they will just run with an idea and then they'll be disappointed when their idea isn't the thing, you know?
Here's what I've learned.
What?
I don't bet against Marvel's casting.
It's a good call. It's a really good call. There was a lot of other announcements at at SDCC. One of the announcements was the first ever project, which is an animated project coming out of DC Studios under James Gunn. They also put out DC Studios logo, which
It looks
I think
very
is
retro,
fantastic.
very classic.
We're not going to be able to cover every single announcement done at San Diego Comic-Con. Luckily, we know some people over at IGN who have done that all for us, and they can do. We have a summary here. We'll put a link in the link dump to their article. It's a list of all the major announcements made at San Diego Comic-Con, going all the way down to some future franchises of video games that may have been spoiled with toy releases. That's kind of a common vector for accidentally releasing information about something that hasn't been previously announced. And then there's even the return of Animalities after a 29-year absence from the Mortal Kombat franchise.
I'm glad to hear it. I was worried about them. But no, if we may, before we leave SDCC, the one thing I would like to end on is there's some announcements related to The Boys as well. And that is that they've dated Gen V Season 2, which we watched the first season of Gen V in the lead up to the newest season of The Boys. And I was skeptical going in. So glad I watched it. It was a fantastic season, but they've encountered some trouble as one of the lead actors unfortunately passed away in an accident. And I have no idea. I still don't know how they're going to write around that because they made the decision not to recast that character. But they have figured out what they're going to do, and they announced that it's coming next year. And Chase Crawford's character from The Boys, The Deep, is going to join the Gen V series as well as a character.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Yeah, The Deep is he had a really rough season this last season.
Every season is rough for The Deep.
I know, but the more time, I guess he had a really inauspicious beginning as a character as well. But it's like the more time that character is on screen, he's such a heel. I just despise him more and more. The one thing I like about that character, though, and it shows up every now and then, is he does have this like hardcore environmentalist streak in him. I love when that shows up. I don't know, something about it. That's really funny. There's also tons of news if you're interested in Star Trek. There were tons of Star Trek announcements this weekend at San Diego Comic-Con. Anyway, we will put a link to the link dump, so we're just not talking about all these announcements for the entire episode. But I do want to say, adjacent to all this, while we're talking about the DC stuff and all the Comic-Con announcements, is that Joker Part 2, the musical, is about to come out. And I said, I don't know if it was one of our test shows or in one of the shows that we've had, live released on the air. I was talking to you, Ashley, about the Joker, and maybe the statements that they were making in the Joker didn't really attract the right audience that didn't really understand the message of the movie and people who were taking on the Joker as a hero/anti-hero. And I felt like as they went into the second movie, they were going to kind of lean away from that.
I mean, they made it a musical.
And now they have exploded explicitly said that. They have now said that the Joker, the Joaquin Phoenix Joker that appears in these movies, is not the Joker who becomes the crown prince of crime as in the comics and in the movies. It's a different kind of Joker.
Like on the cards, because I mean, it's the Joker. Is it? That's what he.
No, it's
that's
not.
What
He's
he
not even a
is,
criminal.
right?
He's not even a criminal in this series. I guess he's just a thought leader or something like that.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, so they have really leaned away from it. I'm really curious as to how that approach to the Joker will affect the people who this character is very important to. There's a lot of people out there. I would say probably of all the villains in any comic book universe, this is probably the most beloved villain by a lot of people.
But this is also a wildly different take on the character already, I feel like.
Yeah. Here's the solution. Just bring Robert Downey Jr. back and have the Joker. That's it. James Gunn, it's right there in front of you. The roadmap is there. That's the recipe. Just get it done. So yeah, we will link this in the link dump. Go spoil away yourself with all the announcements. And this is the official end of us talking about San Diego Comic-Con. Boop, we're done.
All right. So aside from that whole spectacle, there's another spectacle going on. And that is that the Olympics kicked off.
Oh, I found a really cool chart. We should link this in the link dump too. It was on Data is Beautiful on Reddit, and it was a full breakdown of all the events broken down by category that are taking place in Paris 2024. Combat sports, aquatics, athletics, extreme water sports, Ashley, artistic sports, shooting sports, net sports, invasion sports,
What?
and then bat and ball sports, which is just golf.
Can I watch the invasion sports?
Invasion sports include basketball, football, handball, rugby sevens. What's that, Ash?
Okay. I think that means 7 people per team.
And field hockey. Ashley and I are in a weird algorithmic kind of loop at this point where we're being shown really tough women, and we show each other, we send each other these reels.
That's probably why we keep seeing them, is like they're on loop, and I'm like, look at this lady. She's on the rugby team for Team US, and I'm like in love.
And watching her just like
Pick people up and
literally,
throw them.
literally picking people up and carrying them with her, or like
It was
plowing through people.
Like 3 people trying to tackle this lady, and she just shrugged them all off. She's a goddess.
Fucking impressive, man. Really impressive.
I love it. But they're announcing, or they're introducing one new sport for this Olympics. At the Tokyo Olympics, they introduced a couple. They introduced surfing, they introduced skateboarding, and they introduced, I think, like a sport rock climbing. This time, you know what they're introducing, Bernie?
Would it be video games, right?
Breakdancing.
Breakdancing.
Yeah, except it's called breaking now. No, I think
Oh yeah, I see it here. Breaking.
Video games, I think they've voted to approve like an esports Olympics thing, but it's not part of this Olympics. I think the first one is going to be next year in like Saudi Arabia or something.
Okay, so according to my chart from Data is Beautiful, this is in the artistic sports category, and it says that the competition is teams solo battles. They're doing breakdance battles.
Okay, so picture this, Bernie. Picture Zoolander. Okay, they're on the catwalk. They're breakdance fighting, and that's what I'm picturing here. But specifically, yes, I think it's. I'm picturing to the, like you get any of the dance movies, or also oddly enough, the singing movies where groups of people like face off and then like take turns like improvising, doing their thing. This is going to be them, I guess. I'm assuming taking turns out dancing each other.
Yeah, how do you feel about all this as the Olympics expand? To me, if I may, the Olympics peaked at the decathlon. Like all the events in the decathlon, those seem like Olympic events to me. And then you have all the individual people who are the best at those individual events, and then the overall person who's like the badass athlete.
Well,
that's to me like, I love the decathlon.
No, for me, it's been downhill since they put on clothes. But
You know why they did that, right?
no more of this nude wrestling.
Did you know one of the biggest problems with wrestling is there's a specific kind of herpes that wrestlers get? Did you know about this?
No.
I'll look this up. You talk. I'll look up my wrestler herpes here.
No, but I love that they are introducing all these different types of sports, like, skateboarding, surfing, rock climbing, breakdancing. The thing is about these sports, right, is they might seem like they're not mainstream like basketball or something, right? But they are, when you look at them and you see the kinds of people who do them well, it is utterly mesmerizing, especially because they make it look so easy that I can sit here on my couch and be like, fucking whiffed it like an asshole when, something goes wrong. But they make it look so effortless, so easy. The best in the world make these incredibly difficult things look natural.
To me,
it's amazing.
Though the Olympics overall is like this global filtering process where we slowly get down to the person who is genetically the best at doing that event. Like one of the frustrating things about Olympic sports to me is that you could spend your whole life trying to be the best gymnast in the world, but if you grow to be like 6'7", you're out. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like eventually what we end up with after this long filtering process is what's the best height, the best weight, the best body composition, the best mass in order to do this one specific human activity. And it just feels like a genetic showcase, essentially. We talk about the drugs and the performance enhancing stuff, but really it's just like at the end of the day, it's just genetics to me.
Yeah, but I also like seeing what the peak human is capable of doing in all these different regards. And it also shows too, just like the sheer breadth of things that are possible with all the different types of people. I also like to think that you see someone like Michael Phelps is a good example, right? As a swimmer,
Right.
he
got flipper hands.
Yeah, he's got flipper hands, and I think they said his lung capacity is naturally like twice as much as the average person. Like this is a person that if like genetically modifying people was a thing to be like, I would like to have the perfect swimmer, that would be Michael Phelps, right? He's genetically predisposed to being the best in the world at that thing. I like to think
him
that,
in the deep, but yeah.
and well, sure. But I like to think that means there's something in the world that I am genetically predisposed to being the absolute best at. And I just don't know what it is yet. But if I ever find out, I'm coming for you.
What Olympic sport would you like to be good at? Like if you could just instantly snap my fingers and you would be great at that Olympic sport, what would
Swimming.
it be? Swimming?
Yep.
Why swimming?
Survival.
Oh, well that makes sense.
It's a lot of ocean.
That's going to make my answer sound lame.
Go ahead.
Pole vault. I don't know why. I just feel like I know where that came from. Like people vaulting over castle walls.
Yeah,
like
okay.
this was an important thing.
You got some castles to invade, Bernie?
I'm just
You
saying-
got something you need to tell me?
There could be a point in my life where it could come up.
You going
Probably
to-
less likely than swimming.
Are you going away to participate in invasion sports?
Listen.
How do you feel about the javelin?
Don't shit on my dreams, Ashley. I could become an incredible pole vaulter at some point in my life. Or I could become a wrestler and I could get herpes gladiatorum, which is one of the most infectious forms of herpes-caused diseases, is transmissible by skin-to-skin contact, and apparently it's caused by HSV1. It's called wrestler's herpes, mat pox, or scrum pox. One of the largest outbreaks ever among high school wrestlers at a 4-week intensive training camp. HSV
God.
was identified in 60 out of 175 wrestlers. And so it apparently gets like on their head and stuff. It's just skin-to-skin contact where you're just like, jamming your head into someone's armpit or whatever. And yeah, it's a thing that they all have to deal with.
Okay, fine.
Should
I
I-
see why they put on clothes.
Should also point out here that this is HSV1, which according to the World Health Organization, 67% of the global population is already infected with HSV1. It's the herpes that causes oral herpes or cold sores, that
okay.
kind of thing. So you're going to get it anyway. You're going to you don't have to be a wrestler in order to get this.
Yeah, but go ahead and you stick your head in an armpit.
But that's crazy. Can you imagine going to a wrestling camp and you have to, why did the wrestling camp get, shut down early? It's like, everyone got herpes that day,
Yeah.
Oops. Sorry about that.
I'd always heard of herpes, I guess, referred to in the U.S. as cold sores, right? And I remember the first time that I was traveling abroad in Italy, and I was walking by all these like pharmacies, like chemists, right? And there were all these signs up for treating herpes, and I was like, "Wow, they're really open about that shit."
Oh,
here.
well, which
and
one-
it turned
yeah.
out it was like cold sore treatments and stuff. But I was like, "Wow, there's a lot of herpes here."
God, there was something else like that where they call it something very literal, like different than we do. Oh, it's really simple. When you talk to someone in the UK or EU and you ask, "Where's the bathroom?" and they're like, "You want to go take a bath?" It's like you have to specifically ask, "I need the toilet." And in American English, that feels so like abrupt and
right.
direct.
It's like a bit TMI.
Yeah.
Right? Where's the powder room? Powder room? What?
Right. And in UK, it's like you'll be in a restaurant and they're like literally a waiter will say, "Do you need the toilet?" And you're like, "Hey, we don't know each other that well." Like if they see you wandering around, that look you get as a customer when you're looking around trying to figure out this restaurant, what's the fucking layout where they put the restroom, and then you have someone ask you, like you're 5 years old, "Hey, do you need the toilet?"
Although, can I also just say that no one does any resting in restrooms?
No, there's no resting going on. It's a very active time.
It's Olympics, really.
All right. Any other thoughts about the Olympics? Well, I'm sure we'll be talking about this a lot over the course of the next few weeks. I know that America got really upset about the opening ceremonies.
Didn't watch them, don't care.
It's another really interesting thing about being outside the U.S. If I may, as someone who grew up in the U.S. and I am steeped in U.S. culture, it is shocking sometimes when you have that outside perspective of the things that are the outrage of the moment in the U.S. It's usually something related to sex or something related to religion. And the rest of the world, quite frankly, doesn't have the same hangups as the U.S. And you watch the U.S. get upset and gnash about it and everything else. And then everyone else, the rest of the world is just going like, can you just get over this? Can you walk this off? Is this possible that this is not as big a deal as you think? And there was a lot of hubbub about the opening ceremony for the Paris Olympics being anti-Christian. And people were like, "You're reading Christianity into this and then getting upset about it. You know, we don't really care that much about your religion, but go have fun with your trauma."
Well, now I'm going to go watch the opening ceremonies.
People were really upset about it. They were very like the whole talk of like we're going to boycott. You know, we're going to destroy this thing. Because they did something that, you know, we interpreted to be slightly different than what we accept, you know? It's just interesting. You've run into this too, right, Ashley? When you've seen like the U.S. outrage from afar and it's like, oh, yeah. When I was in the middle of it, it's always seemed like a big deal. And from afar, it's like, this will pass.
Yeah. It's like, I think you're going to be okay.
I think you're going to be okay. I think you can walk this off. You'll be fine.
Speaking of people who are going to be okay, I would like to thank today's sponsors, Alex Collier and Oni Jabroni, both future Olympians, for sponsoring this episode of Morning Somewhere at patreon.com/Morning Somewhere.
Well, thank you very much, Alex and Mr. Jabroni. And as a quick call out to our friends back in Austin, if you have anywhere to go today, maybe don't, because President Biden will be visiting the Lyndon Johnson Library there to commemorate the anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights
Isn't that
Act.
like right downtown?
It's right in the middle of the city. And so, especially with current events that have taken place, Ashley, I'm sure security will be on full lockdown. So wherever you were planning to go today, maybe don't. It's a great day to sit at home and watch
the Olympics.
Taekwondo.
Hey!
Why not? All right. Well, that does it for us today, July 29th, 2024. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you'll be here as well.
Bye, everybody.